Madam Chair, we're live.
Thank you. This meeting is called to order again at 5:17 p.m. after our break. At this moment, we will open public communications. Chief Deputy City Clerk Quiñones, is there anyone looking to speak?
No one has filled out a card.
Is there anyone else looking to speak that did not fill out a card? Please come up and state your name.
Yeah, Javier Navarro, with the Baldwin Park Senior Club. I just want to thank you for pushing the money to get our bingo equipment. So it was it went through last week, which you probably know. So thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.
Is there anyone else looking to speak? Seeing there is no one, we will move to close public communications. Now we move on to new business. Number 1, pilot program, community empowerment grants, youth sports organizations, awards of grants.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is an exciting continuation of a discussion that you had started some time ago in the SOC and culminated with you approving $30,000 to be allocated for this community empowerment grant program, specifically geared toward youth sports organizations in the city. We released the request for interest in early September, gave it ample of application time that ended on October 31st. Literally, that was the last day, and we did get 1 or 2 requests just in the nick of time, a total of 8, and all of them from youth sports, so they met that criteria. They also needed to be from fully certified 501c3s. We will go over some of the qualifiers on each one of them as we look at the table that we included in their report on the staff's recommendation. And then we have a comment on one of them as well, the one request from St. John the Baptist School. There's some technicalities that we are still trying to vet over that. Our city attorney will fill you in on that, but we'll clarify what that may mean. So between the chief deputy, city clerk, and myself, we did a review of the applications. I really should say that most of the work was done by Shirley. Thank you, Shirley. And including the vetting of 501c3 certification and so forth, and any questions that we needed to call the applicants to clarify. This one from Tough Kids, which, as you know, board member Greg is the president of it. So the way we would have handled that, if he had been here present today, we would have asked him to recuse himself from this entire proceeding. But since he's not here, then that's not an issue. But if I can turn your attention to page 2 of the report that has each of the applicants listed by name, as well as the amount that they originally requested, and what we as staff are recommending, and any contingencies that apply to each one of them in their vetting of the application. So we will start out with the one at the top, and they're listed in the order in which they were received. No, that's the only order by which they're listed, not by order of preference or any other order, just in the order in which they were received by Shirley. So the first one had requested $5,000. Their official name is Baldwin Park Youth Athletic Association. We know them as the Roadrunners. They're a football club, boys football. The second one is the Baldwin Park American Little League. And in this case, they're applying for their softball program as you know, Little League does both baseball and softball. In this case, they're applying for softball. One thing that is common among them, among all the applicants, is that they're requesting money for either equipment or facilities improvements and training expenses, and in some cases, travel expenses. That's generally the common theme, which is very much in line with the guidelines that we provided to them. Then we come to the St. John, oh no, I'm sorry, Baldwin Park National Little League, which is also for the softball program. But as they propose to do facilities improvements, keep in mind that the field that they improve will also help the other teams, not just obviously softball. And St. John the Baptist School, they were very specific on the amount they were requesting down to the cents, 2801.24 cents. They had gotten an estimate on equipment that was specific for volleyball. And so they literally just transposed their quote they had received and their estimate and put it in their request. And we'll explain the rationale on the amount that we're recommending in one moment, but maybe at this juncture, it's important to bring up what the city attorney has given us a guidance on St. John the Baptist School being a parochial school. There's some restrictions that we are going to be vetting fully, but for now, Mr. City Attorney, if you want to let us know what you have determined.
Hello, checking. So a little bit of background or context. The SOC has recommendation authority. And so what you as a body do is you recommend that the city council make appropriations of funds. And so you're free to make the recommendations that are before you today, but there's specific laws and rules that govern appropriation of funds by public entities like the city council. And St. John's, like all of the other applicants, before we give the green light for the appropriation of funds for these recommendations, all of the applicants, we're going to vet and ensure that there are no legal implications for the appropriation of funds. So we're certainly going to consider the fact that St. John's is a private institution, and there are certain constitutional provisions that do prohibit the appropriation of public funds for religious institutions, but they're fact-specific inquiries, and we're still looking into it. But before we make the final recommendation to the city council, we'll have an answer. But this shouldn't really change the discussion today or your ultimate recommendation. You're free to make this recommendation because it's not binding on the city. The city council's actions and appropriations of funds, that is binding on the city. So we'll present in the eventual staff report to the city council further guidance. But today, just as all SOC recommendations, you're free to discuss and proceed. But before the city council makes their final decision, we are going to provide a fully vetted report to all of the applicants so that we're not singling any one applicant out. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. So then going on with the rest of the applicants with tough kids, we already spoke with regards to what would have been the recusal, and it's perfectly appropriate otherwise for tough kids to be one of the applicants. They also had requested 5,000. And Inter-American Red Devils football, interestingly, as I looked at their application narrative, you know, at first sight, it appears to be a football team, but it's football as in football and soccer. So they're actually a soccer club. But, you know, like the FC, how they're called football clubs. And so now it's like, well, it's a football, it's a soccer. Well, they're actually soccer. And the Baldwin Park East Side Little League as well, they had taken a hiatus some years during the COVID years. They just came back last year. So they're in a reconstruction mode, if you will. They're definitely in need of funding, like they all are. I mean, as you read the applications, of course, you cannot help but to be moved by but we know our basic needs of all these organizations. And then last would be the Baldwin Park City Soccer Club. Also, all but one requested, well, I should say, all but two requested $5,000. One requested 4,000, and then St. John the Baptist requested 2,800, 0124. Basing it on the allocation that you had provided for this program at $30,000, Shirley and I did a proportionality of request, and instead of having to choose who gets 5,000, who gets less than 5,000, we thought that we would apportion the full 30,000 in somewhat in a weighted way, if you will. We took the balance of what the overage was and divided it up evenly among all 8 teams. With the exception of the very first one, you will see it being 3920. We figured they were so early in turning in their application that they deserve to be given $40 more. So just as a reward for turning in their application so early. Literally, I think within a couple of days of the application period opening up, they turn in their application. Said, well, that shows you, some initiative. So we're recommending the amount under the column amount being recommended by staff. It adds up to exactly $30,000. And on the very far right, you'll see a status on their 501c3 standing. To the extent that some were fully vetted and certified that they're in good standing, there are some that are pending. You will see those that are under P. We have yet to receive their status as being fully active, and right now it shows as potentially being not suspended, but being in renewal mode. So we would want to ascertain that they have regained or reinstituted their 501c3 standing. So no award of money or no disbursement of money would occur until proof of their good standing has already occurred. So those are our recommendations. They're all worthy of receiving the funds based on our assessment of their application. Keep in mind that the applications were very brief. The SOC did not want to subject organizations to spend a whole lot of time and resources submitting an application for what at times can be an obvious need. So that all came out in their application. So as brief as they were, they needed equipment. Most of these teams do end up having to travel. Little League, for example, if they make it into the regional round, they travel regionally, and if they make it outside of regional, they travel out of state. That's true of all of them. So money for travel, money for equipment for sure, and then in one case, even money for being able to maintain the fees at a reasonable level. So that's a list of applications, 8 of them. And we recommend that you grant the amounts that we included on the column.
Any questions?
I have some questions. Sorry, I'm like, for the ones that are pending, because I know specifically for the Baldwin Park National Little Leagues that there's someone that are rebuilding, that they're coming back from, disbanding. What happens if by the time, if let's say we approve it today, any amount of money, and it goes to the city council and it gets approved, and then it turns out like they won't be able to get it for months or until like maybe, how would that work? Like, what if they don't get their C3 status? And is there a time limit that we're thinking of for that, or are we giving them grace for this? Or just curious about that.
Yeah, thank you, Sasha. So what we're thinking is that this would go to council next week. Literally, we only have a week. So we probably will have the same sort of condition in the staff report if you approve here. that would be before the city council. Then what we will ask the council is to give a time by which they need to certify that they have renewed their, and it could be the end of the year. And if they do so by the end of the year, then they will remain eligible to receive the funds. If they don't renew by then, we don't know enough of the intricacies of how long it takes to get a 501c3 renewed. Sometimes the IRS can take a while. So we don't want to be unfair by placing a deadline just because, we think 30 days should be enough. When we know that 501c3s can be a while before they get their status restored. But we're thinking of providing a time certain by which they need to get their status straightened out, or else they will be deemed ineligible.
And as a reminder, as stated in the staff report, staff is going to develop simplified grant agreements with each of the awardees that will be included when the city council authorizes this program and approves those agreements. So in the agreements, we can include terms that would require compliance with 501c3 status before the funds are even able to be used.
If I may, just
Yes.
a point of clarification. So obviously they have to be in 501c3 status and maintain that status, correct? Now, we're not going to release the funds until that status is in good standing, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so no funds will be released until they're in good standing.
So along those lines, Councilmember Damon, the question is how long a time do we give them to restore their status? And, at this point, I know from experience that sometimes restoring the 501c3 can take a while. Even though everything is met and, they're fully compliant, but it may take a while from the IRS to give them the reinstituted standing. But do we give them, we'll put some more thought into it to see what we would recommend to the city council.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the timeline you can work and then give the council options. I just wanted to make sure the SOC was aware that they would have to be in 501c3 good status. They would maintain that status, and that no funds will be released until that 501c3 is taken out of pending mode.
Correct.
Good, okay.
Sasha, you have more questions?
I think for me, I just want to bring up to my fellow committee is the St. John's Baptist School request. I'm really not sure how I'm feeling about that, just because I know when we initially wanted this grant, we wanted separate from public schools, and this is, I know, a private school, but just if that feels fair, because we did limit it to organizations and not schools. I don't really know how I feel about that, because essentially if we take them out, that's $400 to our organizations that are here in our community. And I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest. I'm just still like, I know they're in need, and I know, they're part of our community, but also the fact that they're a private organization, the fact that it's religious, the fact that there's still like question about that, it makes me uneasy because of that money that could go to other organizations right now that wouldn't have these questions.
Well, I think if I understand, you still have to vet them, period, correct? That at some point between us saying yes and then even before or after city council, there's still a process of vetting.
Yes, before we make that final recommendation to the city council, considerations like any violations of inappropriate expenditures for religious purposes, which is prohibited not by the federal constitution, but by the state constitution, that's not being violated.
Okay, so I'm okay with that, as long as it's vetted, but Sasha did bring up a good point. Is there a reason why they were accepted, although we said schools would not be able to apply?
So they have their 501c3 falls under not a school 501c3, but a church 501c3. So they're technically a church 501c3,
Got it.
but because the intended use is for the school. That's part of what we need to talk with our city attorney,
Okay.
because the 501c3 is the church.
Okay, because yeah, that's where I was with Sasha. I was like, oh, wait a minute, she's right. We said no schools. But you're saying
Correct.
they applied under the 501c3, which is the church, which is what needs to be clarified.
Yes.
Okay. And then did you have more questions, Sasha? Okay. Is one of the things that will also be vetted, because I don't recall, and I apologize as I'm aging, my memory's not the same. But I know we said 70% participants have to be Baldwin Park residents. Is that part of what's being vetted as well?
Because many of them have not taken in, members yet. So, like Little League just opened their
Oh, okay.
registration, literally, I think this weekend. So, but they know that to qualify, that has to be a criteria. So that will be after.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure, because it's not that I'm doubtful that it's our kids, but I just want to make sure that it is going to our community students.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments? No?
I have one, sorry about that, Chair. Because you brought up a very good point that it was supposed to be 70% of our kids in the organizations. Do the organizations, Enrique, remind me, do they need to be Baldwin Park organizations, or could they be organizations from outside of Baldwin Park?
They have to be in the city.
Okay, the Inter-American Red Devils Football Club, you said there was a soccer. I've never heard of them. Are they from Baldwin Park? Is that organization here in Baldwin Park?
Yeah, they showed that they operate in the city. See,
Because I know the address, well, I don't know, the address is blanked out, but the zip code is a 91767 zip code.
Yeah.
I've never heard of this soccer club. And I know that from reading on their application, it just states that their games are primarily held within Baldwin Park. But I don't know, do the majority of the kids that are signed up with this league, are they from Baldwin Park, or do they just primarily hold their games here in Baldwin Park?
I also have a question. Do we verify the rosters that X amount of percent is from Baldwin Park? I don't recall that.
that's what the chair asked. So those that have not yet registered kids, many like Little League, they're just taking in registrations. That will have to be verified after.
Okay,
Do you
thank you.
think that maybe, Enrique, it's a good idea to verify their prior year's roster? I mean, because the majority of the leagues, you know what I mean? I don't know. It just seems like we're kind of going backwards here. Um, I'm not saying basically don't approve it, right? I'm just making sure that we have all of our ducks in a row. And I want to make sure, A, that the organizations are from Baldwin Park, and B, that we do have at least 70% of our kids enrolled in these organizations. So my concern is, number one, just making sure that we're vetting that they are 100% from Baldwin Park. And if they haven't accepted registrations yet because it's not their season yet, then maybe what we can do is ask for the prior year's roster and see what the percentage of the children were there. And if for some reason they can't meet that 70% threshold, then maybe we can be a little bit lenient and say, okay, well, let's see what your roster would look like for the upcoming year and see if you have 70% of our kids there. Just so that we can make sure we're being, true with what basically the SOC and obviously we had discussed. Um, and this is coming to the council next week, you said?
Next week, yes.
Is there,
Reason being is that that would be the last council meeting of the year.
yeah,
And some of them may be looking to the 50%, advance.
yeah, no, and I get it. I mean, trust me, I understand that these organizations need the money. I completely get that and understand that. But I just want to make sure that we're following what we have said we were going to follow and just making sure that everything is accurate before we just go ahead and say, okay, you're approved. We're going to give you this money. And then they're thinking they're going to, get this 3,880 or whatever it is. And then it comes up where say, you know what, sorry, unfortunately, you're not going to get it because you didn't qualify for XYZ reason.
Yeah.
So, I think it's just better for us to kind of do our due diligence first before we, get it through and pass it and approve it. And then, I mean, because it just seems like there's a lot of things pending, right? On some organizations, their 501c3 status is not in status. So that's one, right? Which we can kind of work with. But then we also have to verify the roster, making sure 70% of the kids are from Baldwin Park. And then I know the majority of these are from Baldwin Park. Obviously, we have to look into the St. John's school, right, with the city attorney. And then this Inter-American Red Devils, I just, they could very well be from Baldwin
I've never
Park, but
heard.
I've just never heard of them. And the fact that their application just states that they primarily hold their games here, the zip code of the person or the organization is not registered in Baldwin Park. So that kind of,
Yeah.
raises a red flag for me. Those are just the concerns and the questions that I had, Chair. Thank you.
And just to Councilmember Damien's point, I'm wondering, I know we want to get this done because of the holidays, but realistically, even if it went to city council next week, would it get done? Because we're going into the holidays regardless. So I'm just posing that question, that is this, if we vote on it tonight, we vote yes, and then it goes to city council, would anything realistically move before meetings resume next year?
Yeah, between now and next week, probably very little. The vetting on the St. John, we can probably do that, but the others, 501c3, no. The verification of the actual place of the one club, the soccer club, that we should be able to have it, but then, what if we don't? Yeah.
And that's the only reason I'm posing it, because if we still can't move through as quickly as we'd like to because of the holidays, I mean, if we're still going to be in that same position, I guess I'm just putting on the table, is it really such a drastic decision to say we table it until February? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that gives us time to do all the additional research on each one. And, really talk with each one of them, how their roster ends up taking shape. I know the only one I'm very familiar with is Little League,
Right.
because that starts like in March, and signups go on all the way until like February. So they'll be taking in kids between now and then. The others may already have a roster, so we can look at their roster as they have it, and we can vet it for the 70%.
But what do my colleagues think?
Can I also throw in one more suggestion? You also can recommend that the city council, make this appropriation for $30,000, and then the city council can authorize the CEO to then conduct the vetting process. And in the agreement that they have to enter into for the final to actually spend the funds, we can throw in that maybe a clawback provision like ARPA funds, where at the end of the year, a year after they've received their funds, they have to submit a roster where they prove that their enrollment was actually 70% people from Baldwin Park. And if in that after that year they're not able to establish that, they have to pay the city the money back. So there's ways we can get creative with the agreement. And so I'm not saying we have to pursue that, but there's a lot of these concerns can be addressed in the agreements that the recipients have to enter into, and it would just require the authority of the city council to appropriate the funds and then give the city manager the authority to make adjustments as necessary to this program.
So what, okay, so I see what you're saying, because the SOC doesn't meet again until February, right?
Yeah.
When does the council meet again after Christmas break, Enrique? The second meeting of January?
Second meeting in January.
And usually the Little Leagues will start playing in March.
Yeah,
So I
March.
see the timeline where you're talking about where they're gonna need kind of this money to get that preparation going before their league starts.
Yeah.
So what if, the SOC can think about or consider approving this with the recommendations that you guys want to add, which is obviously the 501c3, the St. John's, the things that we just mentioned, approve it with those things to the city council so that it can move on to the council, gives you enough time to go ahead and vet all this information so that then by the second meeting of January, the council has the information and you've addressed their concerns, and then we can approve it based on that. And that way they have that money beginning of February or so. And this way they don't lose that. Because I get what you're saying where, you know, it's in March and I know it's crunch time. So maybe you guys want to make a motion, if that's what you guys desire, to approve this based on what you guys,
The request we
the
have.
request that you have, send it to the council with that request. And then that way it gives them enough time to do what they have to do
By your
to
meeting.
address those. And then it'll come to the council the second meeting of January, and we'll approve it based on your request and what they've figured out.
Okay.
That's something that you guys can consider doing, correct? City
Yes,
Attorney?
that'll work.
Okay.
Okay. What do you guys think?
I also would like to add, just if we do that, and let's say some of these organizations don't turn out to be CO 513, we find out, or some other stipulation that they only have maybe 50% registration of Baldwin Park's kids. With that, what will happen to that leftover money? Does it go back to the SOC? Can we meet again and review and say, hey, actually, we have maybe $5,000 left from other applicants that did not get approved, and we can give it to the other ones that did get approved?
It's a great
That's
point.
something that we can do, or that?
That's a great point. I mean, you could consider redistributing whatever, if any one of them drops out between now and when we go to council, that you still appropriate the full 30,000, and then that we redistribute up to the maximum of 5,000. So 6 at 5,000 would be 30,000. We have 8, let's say 2 drop out, so then they would get 5,000.
I think we're okay with that. So then we will make a motion that we will approve these, but pending the requests we've made, which is vetting the roster, making sure that clarification happens with St. John's. And then what was the other one? That they are operating
Park.
in Baldwin Park. So I motion that we pass these with these provisions in place before they go to city council. I'm past that motion. Can I get a second?
I second.
Just to clarify, and this direction came from the city attorney, that the SOC is also recommending that the city council adopt the program, because the city council has not yet actually adopted the program. So that's part of this motion that you're putting forward, in addition to the allocation of funds, is that the city council establish the program.
Okay, okay. So that the city council establish the program, but while also vetting those items before making approval on the actual grants. Okay, so I passed the motion, and then my second was Sasha. Is this a roll call vote?
No. So you're
Mm.
appropriating the whole 30,000, correct?
Correct,
Adopting the program,
correct. Oh, and also ensuring the 501c3s.
correct?
Yes. Right. Yes. Okay, and the other provision is that if those 501(c)(3)s are not verified, that those funds that are not issued to anyone are reallocated to the other awardees.
Up to the
Up to the
5,000.
5,000.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I got a motion by Chair Lara, second by Member Rodriguez.
Yes.
Member Hernandez. Member Rodriguez,
Yes.
Member Nguyen,
Yes.
Chair Lara,
Yes,
motion passes.
thank you. Okay, so next we'll move on to Measure BP Sales Tax Financial Update.
Good evening. Now it's working. Good evening, committee chair and members. I'm going to provide you updates as of ending October. First, I want to let you know we changed the formats based on the comments I have received, and we added the column approved by SOC and a column approved by City Council, and also the approved funding and what we have spent and the remaining available balance for each program. And as of today, we have total of $10,905,000, which including the interest earned through the end of fiscal year 2024. I'm not going to go over all the programs or projects that listed that has been discussed before. I'm just going to update couple of items that are new to the list. I would like to bring to you attention for item number 3, which is the architectural services for concept reports for the proposed sports complex. Originally, based on the very rough estimate, and staff requested for $80,000. However, based on all the bids we received back, and the lowest bid is about $120 thousand. And staff from recreation has negotiated with the lowest bid company, and they try very hard to ask for 80,000 from 120,000 plus, and they came back with $86,000, which is still a great job, Manny, from you and your staff to negotiate down to $86,000 from 126,000 plus. It's a great negotiation. So I just want to provide the update, and it was approved by the city council from the last city council meeting. And the other 2 items I want to update you is the safety gift card program. It has also approved by the city council from the last city council meeting on November 6, 2024. And also the senior bingo system request has been approved by the city council on November 6, 2024 also. And that concluded my reports on the financial updates. You are more than welcome to ask me any question you may have.
Hi, Tom. I do have a couple questions, just for clarifications.
Yes,
With the funding that already approved,
yes,
those aren't set aside, right? Those are still incur interest, on the interest income, right? Correct?
yes. As
Um,
long as the money hasn't been spent, we have been putting in the treasury bond and CD and earning interest.
Yes, ma'am. Another question is, the interest income through June of 2024, do you know when we're gonna know the next update on the interest?
I will bring back the interest earning in the next SAC meeting
Yes, ma'am.
for
Thank you.
the current fiscal year's interest earning.
Yes, ma'am.
It will be a good news
Okay.
because the interest still high, not changing so much, and we watch very closely. I based on, when we are going to spend the money, talking to each department. And I've been putting all the unspent money in investment.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Anybody else?
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now we move on to the Stakeholders Oversight Committee, October 8th, 2024 meeting minutes. It's recommended that the committee approve the meetings of the regular measure BP Stakeholders Oversight Committee held on October 8th. I motion that we approve the minutes. Can I get a second? Thank you.
I have a first by Chair Lara, a second by Member Hernandez. Member Hernandez? Member Rodriguez?
Yes.
Member Nguyen?
Yes.
Chair Lara?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And now we move over to Stakeholder Oversights Committee / staff requests and communications. I know we got back in here and I was like, okay, we got to get the meeting started, but I really want to say thank you for showing us the tractor and the new police vehicle. That tractor, I mean, I know it's a serious machinery, but I was like, wow, that looks pretty cool to maneuver and get on. And of course, the police car just looked amazing, which, you know, obviously is going to help our officers and keep our city safe. So thank you. That was very much appreciated. And those pictures will be shared correctly. So the
Yeah, they're
public
already
can
on
see.
social media. I
Oh.
think Matt sent them around.
Wow, fast.
Doesn't take long.
So thank you. And I don't know if my colleagues have any other words.
Just as last meeting of the year, thank you all for staff. Thank you for the community for entrusting us with this and showing up to our meetings and giving us advice on how to better improve living in Baldwin Park. Really appreciate all the effort and look forward for a whole new year of this.
Thank you, Sasha. Anybody else? No? Okay. So our next SOC regular meeting will be on Tuesday, February 11th, 2025. Our December and January meetings are canceled due to the holiday season. So with that, happy holidays to everyone, and we'll see you next year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy holidays to everyone too.
Thank you.